Hey, welcome back. Today, let's continue finding values of sine and cosine, but let's add in their reciprocals, secant and cosecant. I should switch those, I guess. And then tangent and its reciprocal cotangent. So if you're ready to do the practice, skip ahead where we start practicing. But first, I just wanted to remind us what these functions are and where they're coming from. So when we're on our unit circle, we said sine. Since r, the radius is just 1, we can call sine y, and cosine, we said we can just call that x, so that'll help us in simplifying today. Let's add in tangent of some angle theta, and from the good old days in geometry, wow, that's quite the straight line. If we just draw a quick picture, just to jog your memory, if we have one side over here and one side over here, well, tangent was opposite, right, from this angle. Opposite, which is y, I'll write that down, over adjacent, which is x. So tangent is going to be y over x. And then their reciprocal functions, sine's reciprocal function is going to be cosecant of theta, if we're talking about some angle theta. So I'm just going to flip these. So 1 over y. And cosine's reciprocal function is secant of theta, so that's going to be 1 over x. And then tangent's reciprocal function is cotangent, and that's x over y. And another helpful way, if you want to think of some of these, and this will be useful once we start doing identities, we can also write tangent of theta and all these others. If y is sine, so simplifying today when we're finding, it could be helpful to think of tangent as sine over cosine. Right? And we don't need to write the rest in, but sometimes this helps different students. So let's start some of the practice. Oh, there's that unit circle again, and I always like to stress the more familiar you are with the angles, radians, degrees, and these corresponding coordinates, the easier it is, because today we're going to start taking reciprocals. So for instance, if you know that very easily that the sine of 30 degrees, I shouldn't say theta, I just said 30. If you knew that the sine of 30 degrees is this y value here is a half, well, finding its reciprocal, right, flipping it to 2 over 1, it'll be a lot easier when you're looking at cosecant of 30 degrees, which is just 2, right, the reciprocal of sine. But anyways, let's do some of these. Let's start. Let's start. All right, secant of 3 pi. And again, I always suggest drawing a nice little rough sketch. So I'm at pi, and then 2 pi, and 3 pi. I'm over here. So let's write out our coordinates. Where are we over there? We're at -1, 0. And we said secant was 1 over cosine, right? Secant is cosine's reciprocal, so I can write it this way. So if my x value at 3 pi is -1, I'm looking at 1 over -1. And if we simplify this, we just get -1. All right, continuing along. Tangent of 5 pi over 4. Well, I got 1 pi, 2 pi's, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters, right? I'm going to be looking at a 45-45 triangle. So those are both going to be, my coordinates there are going to be negatives, negative root 2 over 2, and root 2 over 2. Right, the x and the y are both negative in my third quadrant. So if I were to write my y, right, tangent is y over x. So I have negative root 2 over 2 over negative root 2 over 2. And you might be saying, this is silly. I know I have the same top and bottom. So my answer is 1. Continuing along, cosecant of 7 pi over 6. So I'm pi over 6 away from pi, right? One more pi over 6. So this is my short side is my y value, again, negative, right? And the long side is my x value, but negative. Cosecant is 1 over the sine of the angle we're talking about. So we just want the y value. So 1 over the y value, which is -1 half. So if I take my reciprocal, I'm at -2 when I simplify. I'm not at -2, I meant my answer is -2. All right, tangent of -pi. Well, I'm going to go clockwise. -pi is over here. Let's write out my coordinates. My x value is -1. My y, I'm not up or down at all. And tangent, we said, was y over x. My y value is 0, and my x value is -1. And if I simplify, 0 over anything is just going to be 0. All right. Cotangent, 210 Well, we just had this degree before, or sorry, this coordinate before, right? 30 degrees past 180 is where cotangent of 210 is. And it's those same coordinates, right? My cotangent is again, oops, sorry, where am I? I knew I had the drawing, right? We're over here. Let's write it out just because I confused myself and I don't want to confuse anyone else, right? At 30 degrees, my short side is my y value. Again, it's negative. And my long side is my root 3 over 2, but again, negative, right? And so what I meant before is I have that same coordinate. And this time, it's x over y, because that's what cotangent is. So if I take my x value, which is going to be negative root 3 over 2, and I take my y value, which is negative a half. I have this ugly thing. We need to simplify this. So if we're going to multiply by my reciprocal here, right, divide by negative a half really means multiply by negative 2 over 1. Well, what happens? Conveniently, I have a 2 in the denominator here. I have a 2 in the numerator here, so I can cancel, right? And I'm left with negative 1. So negative times a negative, I have root 3. All right, negative root 3 times negative 1 is positive root 3 over 1, which is just root 3. So that's one of those new numbers I'll get today. And negative 2 is also a new answer that I'll get quite frequently. All right, so negative pi over 3, also known as negative 60 degrees, right? So I'm looking over here. What are my coordinates there? Well, x is the short side this time, which is a half, and the y is going to be negative, and that's the long side. Well, cosecant is 1 over the sine value, right? The sine, or the y value, is negative root 3 over 2. So I have 1 over negative root 3 over 2. Oops, negative root 3 over 2. That looks super ugly, so let's instead come off to the side and do some simplifying. 1 times the reciprocal, right? Times 2, I'm flipping this over root 3. So I'm going to continue down this way. I'm looking at negative 2 over root 3. And that also is ugly because we don't like radicals in our denominator. So let's rationalize. Let's multiply by 1, a clever form of 1, right? Root 3 over root 3. And I get negative root 2 over 3. Negative root 2 times root 3. I can't speak today. My apologies. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. This is another one of those frequent answers that we'll see, right? We can't get too many. We have more than last time where we're just finding values of sine and cosine. But again, these end up repeating also. All right, moving along. Secant of 3 pi over 2. Well, what's that? That's down here at 270, right? And let's write out our coordinates down there. Well, my x value is 0. I didn't go left or right at all. And my y value is negative 1. So this is 1 over the cosine, right? Or 1 over x. Well, what happens when I throw my x on in there? 1 over 0. We don't like that. Never divide by 0, right? Undefined. Moving along. Cotangent of where do you see a negative? Cotangent of 135 degrees. So I am, 45, 90, 135 is over here, right? Again, I get that 45, 45 triangle. So both of my sides are root 2, right? But be careful, one of them is negative. In my second quadrant, the x is negative, right? So I have, if I wanted to label it, I have the x value is the negative root 2 over 2, and root 2 over 2 for my y value. Super sloppy, sorry guys. Either way, I have x over y, so if I take my x, which is the negative, and I divide it by the y, which is also root 2 over 2, again, ugly, but I get 1, but negative, right? I have negative 1, this simplifies to. All right, moving along. I have the cosecant of 2 pi over 3. Well, where's 2 pi over 3? 2 pi over 3 is going to be about here, right? That's 120 degrees. So let's label our coordinate here. The short side is the x value, and it's going to be negative, so I have negative half. The long side is the y side, so I have root 3 over 2. And cosecant is 1 over sine. All right, so sine, I want my y value. Let's grab our y value, root 3 over 2, throw it on in, and simplify. Right, this is very ugly, so let's multiply by my reciprocal. So it's really 1 times the reciprocal here, 2 over root 3. And I get this 2 over root 3, because it was just 1. Again, I don't like that. Let's rationalize. And I get that same 2 root 3 over 3 as earlier, right? That comes up a lot. Moving into this question, secant of 11 pi over 6, right? I'm 30 degrees left to go, or pi over 6 left to go till my full 2 pi rotation. So my x value is the long side here, which is root 3 over 2, right? And I can even see that, even though this drawing is hideous, right? It's the worst sketch ever. I can still see my long side is root 3 over 2, and my short side's a half. But be careful, I'm in that fourth quadrant. That's going to be negative, right, for my y. So it's negative a half over here, and I don't want to confuse. I didn't put that in the parenthesis. I was just showing you this side is negative for my y, right, under my x-axis. Secant, 1 over cosine, or 1 over the x value. Let's grab that x value. So 1 over the x value. And we just did this simplifying over here, right? Let's not do it again. Let's skip to my answer. I simplify, and I get I get 2 root 3 over 3. That's my answer. All right, keep going. Tangent, 9 degrees, right? I'm up here. Well, what are the coordinates there? I didn't move left or right, so 0 for x, 1 for y. Tangent is y over x, right? Opposite over adjacent. Well, I get y is the 1, x is the 0. Uh-oh, bad. Undefined is my answer. Secant, 315. Right down here, I have 45 degrees left to go, right, till 360. Again, it's 45, 45 triangle, so both my sides are the same, right? I have that root 2 over 2 combo, but just be careful, right? Y is negative down here. But do we really care in this question? Not particularly, though I do want to always keep my negatives and positives in my head because it's asked for my x value, right? Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so I'm just looking for 1 over x. X is that root 2, so x is root 2 over 2. Let's, again, simplify because I can't have this super ugly looking thing, so I'm really looking at 1 times the reciprocal of 2 of this, so it's 2 over root 2. But do I like root 2's in the denominator? No, let's multiply by root 2 over 2, top and bottom. I get 2 over root 2 over, what's 2 times root 2 times root 2? 2. Oh my gosh, and this cancels too. And so my final answer is just going to be root 2. Again, that's an answer that pops up a lot as well. And finally, the last row, tangent of 750. Well, if I go around to 360 and then I go 720, I'm just going to go 30 degrees more, right, to get to 750. So my long side, right, is the x, so I have root 3 over 2, and the short side is a half, right, that's that vertical side. Well, tangent is y over x, so let's do our workout here. Well, y is 1/2. X is divided by this root 3 over 2. Again, let's simplify, so we multiply by the reciprocal. So I bring this up and multiply instead as 2 over root 3. 2 over root 3, I said. These cancel, right? So let's multiply across. So I have 1 over root 3. Oh gosh, we need to rationalize. So I get root 3. I'm going to write this down here. Root 3 over 3. And that is, I think now we've gotten out all of our new answers. Some are going to be root 3's over 3. Some will be just root 3's. Others will be 2 root 3 over 3. Some will be the number 2, and these are all positives and negatives, right? And we can also get undefined. I think those are all our new answers. Our last our last 3, because I'm crowding into this one here. Let's see, 7 pi over 4. I'm down by this guy, right? And both sides, it's a 45-degree triangle, 45, 45, 90. So both sides are root 2 over 2. We've seen these before. Be careful what's negative. The y is. Cosecant is the sine, right? Reciprocal of sine. So I have 1 over sine. Let's grab my y value. So it's 1 over root 2 over 2, but it's negative. Let's rationalize, or let's simplify first. So I multiply by my reciprocal, which is the 2 over root 2. Again, negative, right? I said times this. Now let's rationalize, multiply top and bottom by root 2 over root 2. Keep going, I have negative 2 over root 2 over 2, right? Root 2 times root 2 is 2. Oh gosh, these cancel, and I'm left with, again, we got this answer before, negative root 2, or positive root 2. I can't remember which one it was. All right, second to last, cotangent of negative pi divided by 6. Well, negative pi over 6, I have pi over 6 left to go till I'm all the way back to negative 2 pi, right? Or 0 or 2 pi, however you want to think about it. My coordinates there, well, my x is the long side, so that's the root 3 over 2. And my y is the short side, which is a half. Well, cotangent is what? We said cotangent is x over y, so flop these in. Just flop. I guess we could flop them in or swap them in, whatever we'd like to call them. So the x value is the root 3 over 2, divided by the y value, which is 1 over 2, multiplied by the reciprocal. So really, I'm multiplying by 2 over 1. These guys cancel, and I'm just left with root 3. And my last one, last but not least, secant of 4 pi over 3. Pi over 3, let's see, another 2 pi. Let's go a little more to 4 pi over 3. So I'm over here. And my x value is the short side, right, at 4 pi over 3. So I have negative, right? I'm in my third quadrant, negative a half. The long side is the y value. So I have negative root 3 over 2, again, in that third quadrant. And secant is 1 over the cosine, or 1 over the x value. So all I really care about is grabbing my x value. So it's really 1 over a negative a half. Well, let's multiply by a reciprocal, and I get negative 2 for my final answer there. All right, so that was a lot of questions. You don't have to do them anywhere near as quickly as I did, but give them a try and then watch to see what I did. All right, hope this helped. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to After School Extra Help. Also, leave a comment if you'd like more examples, or if you want another topic to be covered.